So the journey of 52 Weeks of Why has been so enlightening for me. I've met so many cool people and gotten the chance to interact with so many people. And now I have the privilege of interviewing somebody that has had such an influence on my life after only a couple times hearing him speak and watching his YouTube videos and hearing his story. A real life family man, very much like myself, but also interested in helping other people grow and interested in helping people shift the way they look at things and the way they look at their life. But before I go in any further into that introduction, as always, I have a very quick quote. This one is short and simple and to the point, and it's so applicable for the times that we find ourselves in. It is, when you reach the end of your rope, tie a knot and hold on.
Love it.
And for me, like, that's Thomas Jefferson, right? And for me, the why is the knot. When nothing else is there, when you've reached the end of your rope, these challenging times that we're finding ourselves in are true tests of character. Your real character comes out when you're put under a lot of strain and a lot of anxiety. And that why is the defining factor of that knot. So my guest today is Ryan Leak. Ryan is an amazing artist, an amazing author, an amazing husband, an amazing dad. I will share, his bio is so long that I will not spend 5 minutes going through it here on our interview. But truly, Ryan, I want you to tell a little bit about your story with your wife, because I don't want to try to interpret that. I want you to share that very quickly with us and tell us about your kids and your job, and then I'll go right into your why.
Sure.
But Ryan, thank you for being here, man. I appreciate it.
It's an honor to be a part of it, man. I think it's an important conversation to have, and I think it helps people, and that's what I'm all about. So my wife and I, we started dating about 12 years ago. Probably 3 years into our relationship, I overheard her tell a friend she thought it would be cool to get engaged and married on the same day. The following 2 years, I began surprising her with a wedding. I started planning our wedding behind her back. And so in 2013, I proposed to her in the morning, and we got married that night. 100 of our family and friends flew to Miami to surprise her. And there's a documentary on YouTube called The Surprise Wedding. Anybody could go and kind of watch that. And we since then have had 2 kids. One is 5 years old. His name is Jackson, and we have a 1-year-old. His name is Roman. Over the past couple of years, I started traveling and speaking a little bit more. I grew up in church, and so that was kind of where I kind of licked my chops a little bit in just getting reps in front of people. And I slowly but surely realized in my 20s that people outside of the church needed just as much help as people in the church. And so I thought, man, I'd like to figure out a way that I can just help people, not just people that come to church. And so I started doing some executive coaching and some corporate practice. And so I actually get to spend quite a bit of time in the church world and quite a bit of time in corporate America as well, as an author, as a speaker, and as an executive coach.
And share with everybody, you have a book that I've since read. When I first heard you speak, I hadn't read it yet, and I've since read it. Do you have more than one book, or is it just the one for now?
I actually have 3 books, one on the way. Actually just signed a book deal this week, actually. That's brand news, okay? So that's special content just for you. So the first book that me and my wife wrote, Some Relationships, is called The One. Then the other book, I did like a little book called Chasing Failure. And the latest book is called Unoffendable.
Yeah, so I love the title of Chasing Failure, and I love the one, like, I'm with you in the sense that my wife and I have been together for going on 19 years. She's a very patient woman. We didn't get engaged until 8 years into our relationship. Got married a year later, and like you, had kids shortly thereafter. And there's something to be said for that commitment and having that test of time with that one person as the person who's standing by your side, right? But can definitely vouch for how amazing Unoffendable is. Very easy read. You do a good job of taking a complex topic and breaking it down into something that is digestible. And with kids running around, I read just sitting in my chair and my kids are running around, and you can do that with your book, where there's some books that like, you're like, no, I can't even begin to try like reading a book like this when my kids are around. And yours, it was very cool. And I can't wait to hear about the new one. I'm hooked now. So you got me. Share with us your why.
So this is a great question. No one's ever actually asked me this question. When I think about my why, I think about the world, and when I look at the world around me, not just this week, but I think in general, there is a great need of hope. And for me, I know I have a whole lot of it. And so when I go out into the world to do any job, I am trying to spread as much hope as I possibly can. And part of what I get to do in my role, whether it's in church or in an organization, is I try to peel back all of our layers. I try to look past a suit. I try to look past a degree. I try and look past a salary. I try to look past an accolade and get to the real person of who we are and authentic human beings. And oftentimes you will find behind these very, very powerful and successful men and women are really inside of each and every one of us are that same little boy and that same little girl in elementary and middle school that sometimes is afraid, that sometimes is insecure. And on some levels, I don't think we ever grow up. I think we just get bills. And we are kids that have kids. And I think that life can get people down pretty quickly. And bad things happen to good people. And in that moment, I think they need inspiration. And I think that's a major part of my why is to really give people hope. So that's what I would say my why is.
I love it. I think it's an indication of your faith. I think also that by being a person of faith, you have a hope. And I think that feeds very well into your why. So I heard a couple of different words, and I want to make sure I sum this up right. Sure. I heard inspiration. Yep. I heard hope. And I heard you talk about, not necessarily in this word, but a little bit more about relatability, and taking us back down to that level playing field that we can all relate on. Yeah. So is this idea to bring hope and inspiration, and is connectivity a better word than relatability? Or is it because I feel like you create a connection with people, and that connection is through we as humankind are all connected, right?
Yeah, absolutely. And I think a lot of us live with a sense of who do we need to become to be accepted and loved and to belong. And I think I want to create a space whenever I'm speaking to somebody that they can be themselves, that they can really just be exactly who they are without fear of losing my interest or losing love, that they can be just who they are. And I think that can be difficult when you've been applauded your whole life for winning trophies. And but if you put all of your identity in a trophy or an award or a salary, it will fail you one way or another. It will never be enough to, I believe, make a person fulfilled. I can't tell you how many friends of mine that are very successful that have had goals, massive goals that they reached, and they're going, but something's still wrong. Massive house, dream house, something's still wrong. And so Yeah, so I think part of it is I want I want the world to have hope, and I think hope. Put it like this: you mentioned me being a person of faith, which I am. I think everybody's a person of faith. I think everybody has a faith in something. A person that's full of hope is a person that has faith in a positive future. A person that maybe is a person riddled with fear is a person that has put faith in a negative future. They're still a person of faith. We're all going to put our faith somewhere. I would just encourage a person to put their faith in a positive future, that think that our best days are ahead of us. And so I firmly believe that message, and it's why I add a lot of humor into every keynote that I do, because I think I can't tell you how many times I've told a joke and had a full plate of content in a keynote, and a person won't even pay attention to anything that I said. And I'll never forget, a woman came to me after a keynote. She said, "I just lost my dad and I just needed to laugh today." And for me, I'm just going, yeah, why can't we do that for each other? Why can't we provide a space for a person to be off for just a moment, and maybe just give them a little bit of dose of medicine? And sometimes that's just putting a smile on somebody's face.
I totally agree, especially in times like this where there is a lot of higher anxiety and a lot of uncertainty. That sometimes just that fit of laughter can just everything that happens chemically and emotionally when you laugh. It's amazing how much different that makes everything. It changes the whole direction of your day, right? No, I think it's interesting that you talk about those guys who've achieved the pinnacles of their goals and their success, and how that didn't give them that sense of completion. And that this is something, that a theme that I've read over and over again in every book about success and mindfulness, and every success mentor that I've listened to. They all have this vision of the person, not the thing, right? You have to picture the person that you wish to be, and the person that you will be when you realize that goal, but not the tangible thing itself, that you're not defined by those things. You're defined by those moments of character. And this goes to a quote that I heard, and I can't remember who it was that said it, but it said, "One mistake doesn't make you a monster any more than one good deed makes you a saint."
Yeah.
And that having that one good thing, it's not all of a sudden going to change everything when you realize it. So is this something, did you have this, was this bringing hope and inspiration, something that was with you when you were a teenager? Or is this something that happened in your adult life?
Um, that's a great question. I think in fifth grade, actually, was the first time that I realized, like, oh, life is real. Like, I'm not a kid anymore. My dad had a stroke, and I knew it was going to drastically change the dynamics of my family. And I remember thinking to myself, I have a choice to make. I remember in fifth grade thinking, the decision I make now will determine the trajectory of my entire life. I remember thinking that profound of a thought at fifth grade. And I remember thinking, this can either destroy me, this can either break me or make me. And I'm going to have to grow up a lot faster than I wanted to. And in some ways, I felt like, man, my childhood was interrupted. And in that moment, I thought, I want to help people in pain, perhaps the rest of my life, and see if we can't find some good in some of the bad. See if we can't find a glimmer of hope. See if we can't find some light in a dark moment. And the more I did it, the more I saw that people needed it. I started in middle school, ironically. I was bored in class, and I would take time in class to write encouragement notes to friends. I'd just leave it in their locker. and it would go so well. I would just do it all the time. I would just pick a different classmate and I would just keep doing it and keep doing it. And about 9 times out of 10, a friend would always respond with a note, and they would all say the exact same words. They would say, I really needed that today. I really needed that today. I really needed that today. So I grew up with the mindset that 9 out of 10 people need encouragement.
Yeah.
Because there's never a moment. In fact, I've never met anybody that said, I don't need any encouragement. I'm good. Like I just walk around with the assumption that everybody needs it. And so everything I do, every piece of content, every word that I write, it's to encourage people, because so many people need it. They are, some of the people that are very successful in my world, you would think, oh, they don't need any encouragement. You'd be surprised who
they needed the most.
Yeah. So I just think, man, somebody needs it, and why not be the person that gives it to them?
Yeah, I love that. And this is very, like, I'm a big fan of John Gordon too, right? And John Gordon is the positive warrior, right? And very similar in the aspect of going down the path of negativity is very easy. And that it's easy to get sucked into that whirlpool of negativity. But it's amazing how even somebody who's in that note is an example of how one positive thing is like that hand reaching down and that pulls them back up again. And they're like, oh, here I am, right? I'm back. I'm back. Yeah. Because of that one thing of encouragement. So you were 12, truly, when Dad had a stroke. Yeah. 5th grade, I think 11 or 12.
Yeah.
So I may go a little long because I'm going to tell a little story. So when I was 11, my mom and dad, we lived in Fort Lauderdale, Florida, and my mom and dad got offered to manage a bone fishing resort in the Bahamas on the island of Deepwater Key, which is a 2.5-mile island. My grandfather had a house on this island my dad's whole life. And so they got the opportunity to manage this resort because local Bahamians, they're not just going to accept any old white guy to come run the resort. They've tried that a couple times. It didn't go very well. Dad had gone there for a long time. And they just thought that he would be a good person to come and manage the resort. So here I am going into my 6th grade year, and we moved to a 2.5-mile island. 72 miles east of Freeport, Grand Bahama, no running water. We had a cistern for water, no electricity. We had power generators for electric. There were 7 guest cottages and the guides, and a very small town of about 100 people in this town called McLeanstown, which unfortunately has been wiped off the map with the most recent hurricane that just hovered its eye over Freeport last year. But same as you, there was a change that took place when I was the only blonde-haired, blue-eyed white boy within 70 miles. Wow. And I was 11 and 12 years old, walking through this shanty town and interacting with kids who'd never seen a white person before, and interacting with natives who, it was life-changing for me, and it changed the whole paradigm of how I feel about racism, about color. None of it, we're all people, like you said. You boil it all down to brass taxes. There's a scared little boy or little girl in there somewhere. Yeah. But it was an eye-opening experience for me. Now, in today's world, I engaged with a couple teenagers yesterday. Their big takeaway from not being in school and the situation that we're going through with the coronavirus is that adults don't have it very much more together than they do.
Sure.
And they thought that this was mind-blowing. Just in my conversation with them, they couldn't figure out why we didn't just have a snap of our finger contingency plan in place for them to be able to continue their normal daily routine despite what we're going through. And that was, I think that's a testimony to what you experienced at age 12, that dad had experienced something for which there was no magic wand that you could wave to fix. Yeah. And I feel like a lot of kids unanimously across the board are having that eye-opening moment right now, right as we speak. So, man, it's cool to hear that this has been your why for so long. So when you wake up in the morning, how does that why, is it something that's like, today's the day, let's go, or is it something you have a routine that you get yourself into to get rolling? Tell me how that why gets you going in the morning.
I wake up in the morning thinking somebody's hurting. I wake up in the morning thinking somebody needs help, and is there something that you can create that's going to help them move the ball forward? Somebody's stuck in, they have a problem that they don't know how to get past. And so is there anything that I can do to help them? So from that, I create. Sometimes it's a film, sometimes it's a book, sometimes it's a message, sometimes it's a coffee. Each person needs something different. I simultaneously don't live with the pressure of going, you got to help everybody and fix everybody's problem. But I think whenever I fly, you kind of see all of these squares across America whenever you look down. And one of my good friends, he says, it's like God's given us all a square to take care of. And so for me, I just think about, man, whatever my square is, whatever clients I do have, whatever group of people I am in front of, whether that's 10 people or 10,000 people, that's the square I've been given. And I hope that I can give them hope. I hope I can put a smile on their face, and I hope I can help them move forward with any of the goals that they have in their life.
So you hit on something that's pretty important there, because you're realistic about your own expectations that you set for yourself, right? You're not trying to solve everybody's problems. So that leads very well into how do you know then at the end of the day, or at the end of a lifetime, that your why has been fulfilled, that you've brought hope to people or peoples? Is it on an individual, one-on-one basis? Is it at the end of the day when you rest your head on the pillow?
It's I have a luxury job in the sense that I can speak to, this weekend, I'll speak to 10 to 15,000 people online, and 50 to 100 of them will probably write me in some way, shape, or form, via Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn, that sort of deal. Pre-coronavirus, where I was speaking live at events, I would get the luxury of people being able to come up to me and say something that I said made a difference. There are many things that I do where I may never know, or may never get to meet the person that said, hey, this made a difference. So somebody hit me up on LinkedIn. They watched a video I did and put on YouTube, and they quit their job and started a company in New York. It's like, oh, well, I didn't tell you to do that. They're like, well, you did, and you didn't know it. And so, there's, I have a devotional on what's called the Bible app, and 250,000 people have gone through a devotional that I wrote, I don't know, 5 years ago. So I have no idea what the ripple effect of that is. I just try and be a good steward of my square and give my best every day that I possibly can. And I believe that, at the end of my life, whoever is standing up at my memorial service, I think they'll have a good story to tell.
I think your kids and their kids will have a good story to tell too, right? Because they're bound to be positively impacted by this. They're bound to be influenced by the hope that you're bringing and seeing you bring hope. We're all influenced in one way or another by our parents, by our dad, or by our mom, and what they do and how they conduct themselves and how they interact with each other. And I think understanding that your hope your why is to bring hope. I'm sure that they're going to be positively influenced by that, right? So before we wrap up, any final thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, I want to encourage anybody that's watching, that especially during this time where it can feel like nonstop negativity. The reality is we're only going to hear about more people that got the coronavirus. It was the flu. We wouldn't be doing a flu count, but it is the nature of what it is, because it is very, very serious. But I just want to encourage people, as they hear things, to stay full of hope. I really do believe our best days are ahead, and I think the more we can work together and be there for one another, I think we'll pull through this and we'll be okay.
I wholeheartly agree. I think that if nothing else has come out of this, it's created this feeling that we're all going through it together,
right?
That nobody is exempt from this. And there are things that I'm seeing in a shift in the way that people are interacting with each other, and the shift in the dynamic of the way we communicate happening right now. That's not just limited to a segment of the population. It's not limited to a particular ethnicity or language or anything. We're all going through it together. And there's something about that that to me is so empowering and so neat to see. You truly begin to see, you hit on something earlier when you say, look for the helpers, right? You begin to see the helpers come to the forefront and shine that bright light, that beacon of hope that people can latch on to and help people. Ryan, thank you for your message. Thank you for your books. Thank you for your story about your engagement and marriage to your wife. Thanks for your commitment to her and to your children. I think that you are representative of someone that I look up to in that aspect, that you have a career, you have something that you're all in on, but I know that you're dedicated to your kids and to your wife, and that you foster those relationships. And so thank you for that, and thank you for taking the time with me very humbly to be here with me and sharing your why.
It was my pleasure.